include your age if you like, so we can make sure kids get priority. Once you've written out your question on the card, wave it in the air, someone will come around, you throw them up at me, I will sort through them, assemble them into something resembling an order, and then I will ask them of our wonderful guests, who I will introduce in a moment. Also, in case the announcement hadn't been made, Lauren Faust stayed late for her autograph session to make sure everyone got the autograph that wanted one, so she will not be joining us on this panel. She's gone for a rest, which I think she earned, so it will just be the instructable. Just these people. I believe she has a panel tomorrow. I think she'll be on the artist panel. Don't quote me on that. I may be mistaken. I'm honestly not sure. The person to ask would be Bob or Sandy, one of the two chairs. They have the final word on this. If I knew anything, they wouldn't let me talk. So.
Right there. I didn't want you to walk all the way over there.
So as folks filter in, again, you come up on which to write a question for our writers. Go ahead and wave your arm in the air, someone will get you a note card, and then when you have written out two questions, just wave your arm in the air again, and the questions will come up to the feed. So now that we've more or less filled up, we've got some more people filtering in, but I think I will go ahead and introduce our writers. Huge round of applause, please, for Gillian Barrow, author extraordinaire of the books, and also Nick Confolo, show writer extraordinaire. And that guy. When he's not signing everything and everyone in sight, I think he does some writing. So how are you all doing?
I feel like we're at an auction.
Yeah.
This is the auction.
That's one night.
Like 20 minutes.
Oh, there's another one.
Alright, so let's kick things off.
Kick it!
Yeah.
This is for last time I'm going to open it up to everyone from Chris, and it's a nice place to start. The question is, in fact, how did you get your start as writers? So whoever wants to chime in first, and we'll
Does
go
anybody
from
really
there.
care?
Someone listening.
I guess Chris cares.
They wouldn't have asked if they didn't care, Mitch.
Alright, let's start over.
Yeah. How did you get your start in writing?
Yes, do your start.
5 to 6, you're taking a break.
No, I need
Well,
to get that panel.
5 to 6.
Okay, yeah.
Aaron, this is gonna be
I
over.
wrote always. I always loved writing stories.
Can I at least go to the concert?
Yes.
And when I was introduced to a book when I was a kid called Watership Down by my librarian, with the rabbits, when I read that, I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. And so I went to school for screenwriting and directing, and then I made a couple short films.
Can I ask what about that?
Well, I was too
I don't
young.
remember much about it except.
Do you guys know Watership Down? It's the best book of all time. It's about rabbits. It's very terrible. It's legitimately very terrible. But it was way above my reading level, and the guy also makes up words because the guy is like their own language. So I didn't understand probably 9/10. It's something about it.
So my
And I read it again and again and again. I just read that book over and over again. I still have my first copy. The cover is like read off the book and take it back.
No.
So that's what
As
hooked
soon
me
as this
there.
is over,
And I went
we'll
to school for writing direction, emergency short films, and really hated being on set. It was just not my thing. It's awful. It's awful. It's because if you're ever on a film set, it's really stressful, but nobody's doing anything. You're just kind of standing around doing nothing. But if you feel totally stressed out and bored at the same time, it's horrible.
Wait, you forgot your story about the novel.
So when I was
Good story.
when I was in junior in high school, we got an assignment to write a paper about a hero's journey, and I chose to write mine about the dog piece on a Monopoly board from his point of view. And I remember when I was writing it feeling like, oh man, I'm not going to do this for sure. But that kind of nervousness that kind of hooked me. And then I got an A and my teacher loved it. It was like really great. And that totally hooked me.
He's been looking for your approval.
Yeah, I think about like the anxiety people talk about like when they're writing a paper or whatever. And I'm just like, why did we choose to do that over and over again?
Yeah. Homework forever.
Over forever, yeah. And so then I switched strictly to writing, and when I moved to LA, a friend of mine was an animator at Cartoon Network, and he helped me kind of get into the whole thing. And then I wanted to have my own show, so I started pitching ideas, and the first person I ever pitched to was Nick.
What? That was a twist.
Shocker.
I met Nick 11 years ago. He was at Disney, and yeah, I just came up with some ideas and pitched to him and other people.
Sure, I can catch up.
Go for it. Yeah.
So I'll tie these threads together. So I had a similar kind of like junior high school thing. I was like the kid who would always pitch an extra credit assignment. Like instead of writing a paper, could I just make a movie? And for some reason teachers were like, okay. And so I would always borrow my dad's camera and make little movies with toys and like toys on strings or whatever. And then in college, I was studying like psychology and pre-med, but then at the same time I was also like still making movies with my roommates, and Final Cut Pro had just come out, and I turned into that.
That was the toys?
And then right after college, I moved out to LA, and I was like, I'll put the med school thing on pause, and I got a terrible job as an assistant, which was in live action, producing movies, and it was so miserable. And I got fired from that, but fired to Disney, kind of. Like, he was like, why don't you go somewhere where you'll be better suited for... And I totally got fired, but then the next day, he was like, my boss, like, my old friend of mine just started doing thing at Disney and needs an assistant, and I've heard that it's easy, so maybe you could do it. I was like, sweet.
I hate you guys. If you ever get fired, try to get fired to Disney.
Yeah.
It was the best time I've ever been fired. And so then that was that job that I mentioned. I was an assistant in the shorts program where they were making like 5-minute pilots, and Mitch was one of them.
My book series, Pennyroyal Academy, which is in bookstores now, all 3 volumes available for purchase. It started out as a cartoon at Disney Channel.
I was the first one to buy it.
Princess Boot Camp?
Princess Boot Camp was
Yeah.
I pitched it to Disney for a cartoon. We had Demi Lovato on the list.
Demi Lovato, she hadn't done anything, and she's still living in Texas.
And then it died. So that's when it took Pennyroyal Academy, which you can purchase in bookstores nationwide.
So then, I guess for me, so then they shut down that program. So the goal of that program was like, let's make shorts that you guys gotta think outside the box and make stuff that Disney would never do. And then we made all these things, and they were like, we don't want to do this. Why did you make it? We're like, well, you told us to. And so they fired everybody in that. And this was like not the good kind of getting fired, because I was just regular fired.
Because you had nowhere to get fired
Fired.
to.
Yeah, I got fired to just being fired. But it ended up being the best thing, because then I was on unemployment, and all the people I had met through that pilot making process had all gone on to do other things. And so I ended up getting an opportunity to pitch like a freelance outline on a show that which is working also.
We've worked on a lot of shows together. It's weird. Randy Cunningham. Steve Texas.
And then in a twist of events, he pitched to me. No.
He pitched Princess Boot Camp to
Yeah,
Jillian.
yeah, and then I wrote Pennyroyal Academy. Ghost wrote it. Available for purchase. No. I do have a background in ghost writing. I have a very different path. Well, I guess not. I'm a ghost. Yeah. I just took his joke. I grew up loving stories. I was constantly reading, constantly consuming kids TV, and I did really well with that. So I liked it a lot, and so I decided that would be a really cool thing to do. But then after college, of course,
You're like,
how do you
soon it'll
just
be just like,
yeah, I can just get a job doing that. No, not immediately. I went to work in production on Law and Order. I was a PA. It was really fun, but really hard. And in my spare time, which I mean, like, I would work 14 hours a day, and then like maybe on the subway typing on my phone, I would work on stories and scripts and stuff. And one day I got the chance to kind of try out to ghostwrite a teen novel, an original teen novel based on the TV show Glee. And I got that job, and I didn't know what I was doing, but I made it up. And
It must be really hard to write a book about a show about music.
it is hard, actually.
and then they
It is
sing this
hard.
awesome song.
Well, I mean, I do that in Pony too when I adapt stuff. I adapted the movie, and I was like, someone's like, "Time to be awesome," and then they all dance.
I think it's a secret to writing songs.
But yeah, Glee was particularly weird because it was all based on like dancing and singing.
Can I
But,
ask what the ghostwriter name was?
oh yeah, I didn't choose it. They were just like, "This is the name." I was like, "Okay." Sophia Lowell.
Sophia Lowe.
So I did that, and then I started getting more and more jobs. But I was still working in production for years, and then Pony actually was the thing that got me out of that because I wrote the first Pony chapter book through my same publisher, and they liked what I did, so they kept asking me to do more. And then I ended up at a convention with Megan McCarthy, and I talked to her, and I was like, "Hey, I'm really supposed to be writing TV. That's what I want to do." And she was like, "You got it, kid."
She says that all the time.
Yeah, that's how she talked. And you got it,
She
kid.
always has a cigar in her mouth.
No, here. Yeah.
The big time.
So I kind of went like, I was like, "Hey, I really know these characters, and I would really love a shot." It was really nerdy, and about a year later, she asked me to write an episode, and I've kept writing books and episodes since then.
Jillian, by the way, got up at 5 this morning, so right?
Yeah, I did. Thanks for the shout out. That's why I'm kind of like punchy right now. I'm like,
Mitch got up about 5 minutes ago.
yeah.
Still
So,
waking up.
outside of Watership Down, which you mentioned, Mitch, what are some of the other works or authors that have most influenced your work and your development as professional writers?
Any real
Available in bookstores.
nationwide, all 3 books. Soon to be a major motion picture. Sorry.
I'm assuming everybody here has some interest in writing at some level, right? So you can kind of get nerdy. The best thing,
Get nerdy.
the best thing the most instructive thing I've ever read in terms of film is the screenplay for Born Identity.
I did not think you were going to say that.
If you can get your hands on this, and you can just Google it and you'll find it. It's the writing in that script is incredible.
Who wrote that?
Tony Gilroy.
Yeah, I would say that too. I would read Tony Gilroy.
Tony Gilroy's amazing.
David Kep is an amazing screenwriter.
So what makes them so? What makes it so?
In Born Identity, it was the first time I realized
Needed to say something.
he writes the timing, and he doesn't use full sentences. It'll just be like a gun dash dash.
Ooh.
But the first thing that happens is you picture a gun. Like I heard writing described as cinematic dictation by Andrew Stanton, who did like Finding Nemo, and he described it as you're picturing the movie in your head, and you have to be writing down the images you see. If you're not writing in images, you're writing an outline.
Tony Gilroy would write, because a lot of people write just dense, then this happens, then this happens, then this happens, and you just kind of zone out and it gets really boring. Tony Gilroy and a lot of other writers, they write pacing and they write exactly what you would see, and you feel that you feel the scene getting faster as you're reading it.
And
Whereas,
it's literally getting faster because the words are
yeah,
getting shorter.
there's more white space on the page.
That's a good tip. I'm going to
That's a
read that.
phenomenal screenplay.
I think you were asking about like books.
Books, authors, just influences on your work.
Like that season of The Simpsons with like Monorail. That particular era where like everyone would talk about the episode you watched the night
Just
before
that
at
one
school.
section, Monorail.
Yeah, that year.
Yeah.
I played a lot of Nintendo, Super Nintendo, Final Fantasy, things like that.
I read a lot of fairy tales. I know you said fairy tales.
they influenced his book.
Yeah.
Pennyroyal Academy.
Pennyroyal
Two
Academy.
sequels available from book resellers everywhere.
Fairy tales, I always liked The Golden Compass was a big one when I was a kid. That was like my Watership Down.
By the way, it's not rude if you guys go on your phone and order the books. I won't mind. It's not rude.
My Watership Down was Sphere by Michael Crichton. I think I've read that like 1,000 times. Whoa, to you too, it's so good. That's my favorite genre, the genre where like a bunch of scientists come together and go into some weird place. Like Stargate, is that genre? Jurassic Park, is that genre?
What is this?
The Abyss.
The Abyss, I love The Abyss. So yeah, that's my favorite. We should write an episode where they help me.
Science and language stuff. I love Kurt Vonnegut. I read a lot of Kurt Vonnegut.
Yeah, I had that feeling. Like for me, Kurt Vonnegut was like, it's like high school reading lists were just boring, and then we had to read Cat's Cradle junior year, and I was like, what? This is
Cat's Cradle last.
And I tore through all that stuff.
So we've got a two-part question. First is what sort of non-writing experience has helped you to be a better writer? Second, what, if any, sort of formal education has helped you in your writing, or has formal education about writing never really played into your work? Stay in school, kids.
Well, I mean, no, well, I think stuff outside of school is that you can't just sit in a room and expect to be able to write about life and events. You need to go out and do things so you have some sort of reference.
I also worry, I worry personally a lot about that too. Like I don't do enough, and I'm very conscious when I'm writing something and I'm not basing it on something in reality, I'm basing it off of something else I've seen in a movie, and I'm really self-conscious about that. And I feel like you can tell when you're watching something that it's like this second-hand copy of a copy.
Like a support group, like scene where everybody's in a circle in a chair and it's like they're all the same.
Yeah.
Everyone's basing it on a different scene.
You know, lights up, it just spins around.
I had every job known to man before I started writing. I worked at Honey Baked Ham.
Did you?
Yes. I worked at an amusement park for 3 years. I worked at Victoria's Secret.
FBI, female body inspector.
It's a very important job, you guys.
Let's remember that we
Weird job for you to do.
all ages, G-rated convention here.
I drove trucks. I drove trucks when I lived in New York. I've just had every job. And then I started writing, and I don't know if those came into play, but it
I'm
was.
sure they did.
When you were a personal assistant to a...
I was a personal assistant for a director for 3 years in New York.
Which of us has not been?
Yeah, I think that's something every writer I know has that in common. That
Yeah.
everyone kind of just like eats it for a couple of years, working for some awful person. And I feel like that must be essential. So, I mean, you learn to just suffer all day. I don't know. I mean, one way is it's the way you meet a lot of people and
Yeah.
you're reading all the time.
I think that's more important than the formal education part, is just reading, finding scripts and reading them, and learning how they do it and how it works, and what writing is effective and what isn't. That's important. But you have to tell them about your paper. Yes.
Okay, so I went to Princeton, and I was like, my parents were so proud. No, it's essential that I'm like letting everyone down by being here instead of as a doctor. But so like, you have to write a thesis to graduate, and this was like my first step towards like, I'm gonna go do something weirder and sillier, because you know it's like a gazillion dollars a year, and I was like, sorry, mom and dad, because I wrote my thesis like on meta humor and comedy, and like explaining what jokes are. And like the thesis advisor was like,
I'd love to read that.
There's a section, right, where you explain things becoming not funny.
yes. So I can like get wonky for a second. So yeah, I very seriously in like academic writing with like statistical analysis and like R squared and T squared and all this stuff, like break down the joke on The Simpsons where Sideshow Bob steps into a rake and goes like, and then he turns, steps into another rake. I did a study where I asked people like 10 random jokes that had no punchline, I put them in a random order, and the effect I saw was that they got funnier till about the third time, and then they went down and got less funny, but then they got funnier again and peaked at number 7, and it's the same amount of times that Sideshow Bob steps on the rake.
Oh.
So there you go.
Science. And I got an A out of it.
that's the key to doing the joke where something is funny then not then funny again. Is
Seven times.
go to at least go to 7.
I think it would be fun with the sine wave, but I didn't do research. I need some follow-up study.
You can still pick it up.
Team America, the scene where the public gets sick, right? Like that goes on and on.
Question here from Mitch. You said you're not going to be writing anymore on NLP. So I was very curious to know if this means that you're now able to read everyone's fan fiction.
I've been reading them all along.
More seriously, this is a question from S. Pierce. Very curious to know, when you finish one project and move on, how do you find inspiration in terms of what to write next? Or more broadly, where do you find inspiration from? How do you
I think that
get the words
implies
to
a
flow?
different lifestyle than good job. You know, to you, like at least I don't really go from original thing to original thing so much as like when something ends, I frantically scramble and that's how I handle it. And then I get inspired by that.
Yeah, I don't know. With Pony, I mean, a lot of times we're given a log line that we have to work with, and then you just kind of go from there.
Can you explain what that
A
is?
log line is just a very short 1 or 2 sentence description of what the episode is going to be about.
That's what you might kind of see on a TV guide.
Yeah.
Pinkie Pie gets a haircut.
Actually, recently I had something like really weird happen.
Anything.
Pinky gets a haircut. That's good. That's
That's what it's
good.
like. And then it's
That's
all
And then
about-
we're like, yeah. I wrote a bunch of Equestria Girls summertime shorts, and on the Discovery Families app, they have like original pitches as the log lines that like were like stuff I submitted way before we edited anything. No, nobody asked me to, and I was like, this is really embarrassing. Like, 'cause they don't even make sense to the episode. Like, they're just like, oh, this happens, and I was like, that is not what happened. And I was like, this is weird. So if you want to go look at that and see what it looks like at first, I guess go do that. Yeah. Inspiration?
It's more, I don't know about you guys, but I feel like I have so many ideas already that I'll never be able to do them all. So it's not that I need to think of a new one because I'm done. It's which one do I get to do next?
Right.
And then you end up like putting that on. Like I had this thing I've been writing for like 10 years about the Manhattan Project, and I write a tiny verse, and then I reconsider something else, and I come back to it and try to write a little more. And I don't know. I should probably finish it right now. So
Yeah. Or just marinate for a really long time. Okay, cool.
This is another question from Rob at aged 11. He's curious to know, what is Spike's favorite James movie?
I know the answer.
Is this not been in the show? Is there a real answer?
I was just gonna say the one that my own head came in.
Yeah, tell me.
Well, it will be official canon the moment you say it. So no pressure
Let's
at
all
all.
say it at the same time. 1, 2, 3. Emeralds.
Jillian's wrong. Ruby.
How many of you are fans of Steven Universe? Have you seen there's a wonderful piece of artwork of Pearl shooing Spike away, going, get away from us, you monster! Mitch, I know you have addressed this recently, but quite a few people...
The rumors.
Yes, tell us the
Address
truth,
the rumors.
Mitch. Address the rumors. Quite a few people are concerned or would like you to clarify your feelings about the fandom in response to the episode Fate and Miss
Love to.
I know you've chatted about this recently in advance, but would you mind kind of
Official
clearing
statement
things
time.
up?
So, first of all, if you love the episode, fantastic. I'm not trying to talk you out of that. I'm very happy.
I enjoyed it.
I was given a premise that was very meta, which is not my favorite thing. I know what I did the 100th episode, but that was a special case. So I got this meta premise, which is automatically not my favorite thing, but fine, whatever, it's fine. And then we start going into it, and I just didn't get it. I did not understand why we were making an episode where 7 seasons worth of these background ponies that we have come to know and love were just making them jerks the whole time.
Can we also jump in and say one of the frustrating things sometimes is like, sometimes on shows, the writers pitch the log lines that they're into and excited about, and sometimes you get a sign that this is the frustrating thing we're doing.
Yeah.
If you don't click with it, it's like,
I
okay.
didn't know how to do it because I kept saying like, so I was learning the lesson, and they said, well, the main six are learning the lesson, and I was like, what are they learning? Because they didn't do anything wrong. They tried to help out by releasing the journal so people could learn from it. Everybody turned into raging jerks, and stayed that way till the end. Great lesson. What's the lesson? I didn't know what it was. So I tried to turn it into a Pinkie Pie episode where it was exactly how it played out, but then at the end, she gets in front of the whole town and it's like, you guys, you are trashing the person who wrote these pages, and that person is me. It's me. You've known me your whole lives, and you're making me feel awful by trashing me in these pages. And she goes home just totally destroyed. And then it's A Wonderful Life, you know that movie from the 40s? The ponies come in one by one. They come in and they're like, I'm so sorry, Pinkie, you're absolutely right. We lost our heads. We love you. And then the moral is to kids, be nice online. You know, there's a real person on the other side of that Facebook message or tweet that you're sending, which I thought was a great moral for kids. And they come in. So then you still get to do all this stuff with the ponies being jerks, but at the end they realize we were wrong. We shouldn't have acted that way, and that's lovely and heartfelt and whatever. And they're like, no, that's not it. That's not what we're doing. So they're like, okay, what do you want me to do? So I wrote the episode. I did write the whole thing. So I keep seeing these things about how it was like some old premise of mine that they took and wrote, which is the exact opposite of what happened. Not my premise, and I did write it. I just don't get it. I still don't get it. I think it's kind of mean-spirited. I think it's weird to end the episode with all these lovely towns ponies just being
Well, it's weird
jerks.
to me to not do what you pitched, but not do something else. To just be like,
Yeah.
oh, there's something with meaning and heart. Well, we're not going to do that or any.
Yeah, we're just gonna leave it where they're all just mean. And so it's like, and I got people sending me messages like, is this how you feel about us? And I'm like, no, this was not my idea. If you want to know how I feel about the fandom, watch Slice of Life and look at the tweets I sent out after that episode, and then that's where I stand on the fandom. It's not fame and misfortune.
Or look down at your arm because he signed it. He's blamed you all for his own.
It's a bummer to me that people think that I was like setting out to say, you guys need to back off. Blah, blah, blah. It's like that's the opposite of how I feel.
Well, there's a lot of stuff that goes on behind the scenes that we aren't always allowed to say that I feel like people
I'm not on the show anymore, so I can say it.
want to get really up in our face about, and it's just...
There are a lot of things that, well, there's a lot of things we get credit for that we didn't do, and a lot of things we get blamed for that we didn't, that weren't our choices we didn't do.
The bottom line is that you weren't trying to.
No.
It wasn't a take that at the fandom. You love them as long as they buy your books.
Yeah, they cut that too. That was the big finale.
They all traipsed over to the bookshop. Or Penny Royal Academy. Right.
So yeah.
My little pony. Cue the credits. Where shall we go from there? Okay, I mean, you mentioned sometimes getting credit for things that you didn't do or getting the blame for things that weren't your fault. Andy would like to know about a time when Hasbro, or I guess anyone really, just when your ideas were pushed back against, when you had an idea and it just did not fly. I guess we just heard one instance where you pushed back and it didn't result in a victory for you, but can we hear about a situation where maybe you pushed back and managed to get something in that otherwise wouldn't have gone through?
That doesn't
That's
Just kidding, great company, though, great company.
that's the entire 100th episode was epic battle.
That's crazy that exists.
It's insane that it exists. It shouldn't exist because nobody got it. Nobody wanted to do it. It was the emails that went back and forth about that episode are epic. And nobody got it. Nobody understood it. But then they actually, once they did get it, because I finally, after all this back and forth, I sent a massive email to all of Hasbro and all the relevant Hasbro people, DHX.
All of Hasbro.
All of Hasbro.
Like, how many employees do they have across the world? You're like, listen to me. Nick Larson is shocking.
And the Hub and DHX and was like, here's the idea, this is a special episode. We don't need to worry about what the main six are doing. They're the background ponies this time around.
That alone would make me be like, that's crazy.
Yeah. the plot, everybody had a real hard time with the plot. They're like, this doesn't make any sense. The plot doesn't matter. The plot doesn't matter at all. The whole point of this is just to see as many background ponies as possible, see what they're doing, have fun with it. It's just supposed to be crazy fun. That was the whole point. But people were really bogged down by the logistics and the plot of this and that. Like, forget about the plot. It doesn't matter if it makes sense.
Wasn't there a Game of Thrones reference in another episode that you had
Yes.
to
Yes.
battle for as well?
Yes, and yeah, I won that fight, but maybe I shouldn't have. But yeah, I sent a really impassioned email to Hasbro because Twilight looks up at the sky and sees Cloudsdale's just exploded, and this gigantic snowball of winter is coming right at them. And I was like, you guys, we need to have this show. This is the only time in the history of television where we can use the winter is coming reference, and it's like literally winter is
Not a reference, it's just a fact.
Oh no, I was talking about the Red Wedding in season 9.
Big Macintosh wedding. But I'll tell you one where Hasbro was totally right. It was Luna's Royal Camelot voice. That was
a note from Hasbro.
We had written an entirely different version of Luna, and they said, wouldn't it make more sense if it was kind of different because she's been in prison. So yeah, it was Hasbro. She was more like the woman from Parks and Rec, Aubrey Plaza, which is funny.
Yeah, I just said that. Now that's what Maud Pie is, pretty much.
Yeah. She was a bit more like Maud Pie, but it was a good note. It turned out really
They
well.
give good notes.
They give good notes.
They do. They're not evil. I know, sometimes people come up to us and they're like, Hasbro's evil, right? And we're like, no, I mean...
It was a good show in English. You can say what you really think about the notes.
Oh, well, he's not Hasbro. He's DHX.
Oh, DHX, okay.
No,
I was gonna say, the thing is, everyone's trying to make a good thing. Like,
Yeah,
everyone's like
yeah.
trying to make something not good.
We're all on a team. Mostly. I was able to put a Breaking Bad reference in one of my future things coming up. And they let me keep it, and I was like... No, in something that is going to be animated.
Oh.
A pony thing.
Have you had anything with the Breaking Bad reference?
Yeah, I've been having more like with references too. So there's like Titanics.
There's more references coming up, you guys.
Do you guys like
You
references?
guys like that?
Do you guys like things you know and you never?
Let's see.
So yeah, here's the thing.
Can I ask you a question?
Originally, all you gotta do is
Sure.
So I have a bunch of references in some of my episodes that are like nobody would ever know but me because they're really obscure.
literally,
Oh, the one
No, I don't know if
with
you guys ever do
the, with the
that.
one with the sign.
There's a
Yeah.
reference to this movie from 1991,
Yeah.
The Commitments.
Yeah, the commitment.
There was a reference to a Pace McConney sauce commercial from the 80s. That's like nobody would ever do this, but I love it. Have you guys ever done this, like really obscure ones?
Oh yeah, of
Yes.
course.
And
Yeah.
you hope no one notices. You hope someone notices. You want no one to notice until it's been made.
Tell, where are they?
Well, I actually, in my books, I used to put like characters and little references to all of the other writers in the book. Like I made the school that Rarity's assistant goes to, she went to Larson's, the new school for design. And it was like, I put one that was like an Amy thing and a Megan thing. I have like a bunch of the writers are all in the books as like
It's really obscure because
characters
it's
and
actually
locations and
it's
stuff.
called Parsons.
Yeah, Parsons.
Nobody would know that.
So it's super obscure. But anyways, what do you have? I have so many that I just can't even come up with them.
Yeah, so most obscure reference that you've made that people have got, and the most obscure that people haven't got.
I mean, I had like a goldfish in the Discord had a book named Quincy, and then he was like, I call him Q, and everyone's like, oh, because that was not very thinly veiled, but no.
I just got that.
He's just being nice.
She would ask me this like an
Yeah, we need to think about this. We need to think about this and come back to it.
I put him on the spot.
It is fun.
It's really fun.
That's the best.
I had a question in here for you, Nick. There we go. This is from Michael. Yes, it's watching that. We'll come back to that when you've had some time to think about it. But Michael was noting that you introduced Starlight to Trixie in season 6 and to Maud in season 7. They're curious if I mean, you can't really talk about future seasons, but you can wink a little bit. Will Starlight perhaps be meeting
I can't wink into it.
any pony new in season 8? Maybe.
Let me think.
Yeah.
Or you could just talk about how the experience of writing those two.
Yeah, I love doing that stuff. I like taking characters and digging deeper into them, I guess is what I would say. Like, I felt like what was so fun about the Trixie episode was just, you know, now they're like best friends on the show and she's there all the time, but that started just because when we were in the rubric in the story or coming up with ideas for that season, we were like, so what's Starlight gonna do all the time? Like, what? And so we realized, well, she's starting to become a better friend. Wouldn't it be funny, like, who's the worst person that would make Twilight? Basically came down to, like, what would make Twilight go bonkers? Like, what would she think the worst first friend would be? And then we were like, oh, that would be so funny, Trixie. And it kind of was like a one-off thing, but by getting the opportunity to dig deeper into the character and be like, well, why is she so terrible? Like, why is she such a kind of I mean, that's what I really love doing, is finding characters who seem really one-dimensional and then digging deeper.
Like Maud.
What's up with Maud?
Yeah, like Maud Pie, your character.
So, do you want to tell us?
Yeah, when Nick and I first met in a room, we argued. And then we got into a fight over who got to write a specific episode that neither of us ended up writing.
It was the gift of the Maud Pie was broken in the room by someone and they weren't there. And I was like, at the end of the thing, it's like, who's going to write which premise? And I was like, well, I'll do that one, but I think Josh already signed it to you. And then
I was like, oh yeah, I'd love to do that one. Like, oh, I love Pinky, and I want to write Maud. And he's like, I'm going to do
And I was
that.
like, well, no, I'm going to do it. And then like everyone was like, let's see how everyone laughs. This is what's happening. Everyone laughed. And then I was like, no, but like I really. And then it became really clear that I was just being a huge awful person.
And he like apologized over Twitter to me that night. And I was like, I guess that guy's alright.
Only because neither of us got to write that one.
Yeah, it was pretty funny actually.
They learned an important lesson about friendship.
We did.
Apologize as soon as you realized you didn't get it.
That is a good lesson actually. He was like, I was a jerk, and I was like, yeah, that's cool though.
I wouldn't have apologized either.
Didn't make it into an episode, but who gets to write?
This is going straight to his head. Oh dear.
No.
Dear Prince Larson,
Oh, why did you? No.
why was Flash Sentry cut from the Slice of Life episode?
What was what?
Why was Flash Sentry cut from the Slice of Life episode? Because he was originally in there. You wrote
He
a
was.
little. Can you talk about the little sequence he was in?
Flash Sentry was toward the beginning when Cranky was running around town trying to frantically get the wedding right. Flash was tagging along behind him like, oh, get it. You know, I come in and wash your car every Saturday. I do this for you, I do that for you. Why don't you like me? Why doesn't anybody like me? Hasbro was totally into it. They actually really liked it, but they were worried it was too much of an inside joke. So that's why he got cut.
The whole episode was an inside joke.
This is over the line.
But they actually, to their credit, they were like, they left it in for a draft or two. They kind of liked it.
That's pretty good.
Yeah. But, it was also, there was so much good content in that episode just because there was so much stuff. So Flash was easy to cut.
Got a couple of questions here as to the best idea that you had that was not accepted in the show, like something that you really fought for that didn't make it through.
I know your answer.
You?
Yeah.
I didn't.
It's about the like Applejack doing
Yeah.
yeah. See, I just already come together. I'm like, I know what he's gonna say.
But I've said, you guys have heard this before. I've probably said it here last year.
Then again, it's still funny.
How many people haven't heard this answer before?
No.
Right.
Sorry to you guys if you have. It was called Philadelphia Ragtime, and it was, you know, the map episodes. We did that one season 5. It was going to be a map episode where Rarity and Applejack had called it Philadelphia. It would be the first time we ever saw that place, and it was going to have this really awesome jangly piano kind of soundtrack. And the idea is they show up, and they're like, "What are we doing here? Why did we get called here?" And they notice this big crowd, and they go over to the crowd and see what it is. And Flynn has just been elected mayor Philadelphia. And his first act, he's saying, I'm going to outlaw cider in Philadelphia. And so Applejack becomes a bootlegger. And starts bringing in illicit cider to Philadelphia. And in the meantime, Rarity is, she's sort of like infiltrating the halls of power and kind of pretending to be in love with Flam, who's the chief of staff, so that she can get information, and I guess it was too adult. So, yeah.
I got nothing that compares to that.
You broke me. I've got
Mending Fences was one for it. I wanted to do that since like season 2 or 3. I think season 3 I pitched it the first time, and just could not get any traction with it. So then,
There's always so much resistance to the idea of going back to
yeah.
questions and solving them, and I don't understand why. I'm obsessed with it, because when there's pieces of unanswered questions or like mistakes you make, you can address them in the story, and it's always interesting.
folks enjoy Mending Fences.
It worked out well because, I pitched it for so long nobody wanted it, and then all of a sudden I was the story. And it got
That's what it
through.
takes
I have some
really to see
ideas.
it power. I had a pitch that I did for like 2 seasons, and then I finally got to write it for season 8. So it does happen.
It does happen.
It does happen. But I'm not gonna tell you what it is.
This is a question for Nick and Gillian from the Casual Brody. How do you deal with Larson?
The casual brother.
Just embrace him. Just accept him as he is.
Except that you will get signed by the end of the...
Yeah, I always like go home after a convention like bleary-eyed with Sharpie all over me.
This is
My
actually
pictures on my phone, it's like Memento. I'm like, that's usually what it is.
Unbelievable lies.
Yeah.
This is a question for Larson, but actually for all 3 of you, but again, I'll preface this by saying this is a family con. What's the weirdest thing you've ever signed?
Well, no. That was you. I keep thinking of things, I'm like, no, that was him. I've just been next to him for all of it.
I'm gonna say mine before you say it. A flip-flop. Go ahead.
Flip-flop?
I signed the air. The man right here helped me do that.
You signed the ear?
What was it? What did I have? A light pen. And I autographed the air. And it was like a long exposure or something like that. And
That's cool.
I autographed him with his voice. I got a voice, like a wave pattern of her voice, and I autographed it and ran it through.
Oh, and an Olympian.
I signed an Olympian here last year, an equestrian Olympian.
Yeah.
This dude is a gold medalist horse rider, and I signed him.
I signed lots of copies of Penny Royal Academy because people think that's really good, and I do too. And I've also signed Mitch. So there we go.
My absolute favorite was I signed a cop.
Was
Favorite.
he like arresting you?
She came into the, she saw these people like in cosplay and stuff, and came up to the autographer and was like, what is going on? And I don't know what I was thinking. I was in my hometown, so maybe I felt like a little confident. I stood up and I'm like, can I sign you? She's got her gun and the whole thing, and she's like, sure! And walks over and sticks her arm out.
What
So I
is
signed
this
it.
weird power? Like, what? It's like the weirdest, most useless power ever. Yes.
It was great. She didn't ask me why, nothing like that. She was like, sure.
Oh man. Okay.
I signed a tweet, that one was good too. That took a lot of work, because I had to Photoshop my signature and put it on a transparent background, take a tweet, put it over the tweet and all things. But it worked.
Probably tell you that there was a copy of your last book in the charity auction that was signed by you 3 times. Only it was myself and Dusty and Jim Miller forging your signature. Sorry about that. If you'd like to sign that, I'm sure the person who won it would love a fourth. Question here for all three of you about sort of different forms of writing that you've done and which you kind of prefer, and the difficulties, the intricacies of writing books versus episodes versus academic papers on humour and why 7 is the appropriate number.
The worst thing I ever wrote was my very first job was writing jokes for New York Magazine's blog, Vulture. And my job was, I would take the like Variety and Hollywood Reporter and the trades, and I would have to be up from midnight to 1 when they would publish tomorrow's news, and I would have to write like, you know, Carl Reiner, more like Carl Reimer if he was like doing a movie about rapper. It was just like the worst kind of comedy. And it was every night, and I had to do it, and like sometimes I would be like, is it the wake up forget, or I wouldn't be somewhere with my computer, and I'd have to go to the library in the morning.
Wait, we're supposed to talk about the worst writers and stuff?
Oh, just the
What was the
challenges.
question again?
What was the question?
The
I'm really
challenges.
enjoying this.
The challenges
Because I was
of
going to
Episode is
say,
challenging.
different writing forms, books versus episodes
I used to
versus.
be a copywriter for Living Social, which is like Groupon. And I would have to like write like laser wax deal and like make it like funny and interesting. It was like a paragraph. That was terrible. So, you know, really doing well now. I think that
Do you find writing, because I'm interested, because both of you have done this, I have a lot of trouble whenever I think like, I'm just gonna like whip out a book and just write a book.
yeah.
It's real hard for me to write.
That's how we all
you know,
think.
That's what writing books is like, right?
Yeah, that's,
Like, do
Pretty
you guys
much.
feel like, is it hard going from the screenplay format to like, how do you know when to like go into someone's thoughts and switch scenes and, I don't know. It's
So
a
hard.
a
It's
hard
so
business.
It's
difficult.
really difficult.
in a screenplay, I don't know if you guys have ever seen a screenplay, they're formatted really bizarrely.
But it's a nice thing, like, there's only certain things you can do.
Yes, you're not allowed to go into a character. You can only say what you actually see. You can't say what a character's thinking. The whole goal is to use the shortest, simplest sentences possible, right? Just like, he picked this up, like that's it. No flourishes. And it's all present tense. And now that's where I kept switching. Because I was trying to write my book in past tense. At some point I would have switched to present tense and I realized that they're very different. I always thought of it like, I trained for years on how to repair motorcycles, and then somebody asked me to repair a car. You know, it's like kind of the same thing, but totally different.
Yeah, and the pacing has to be a lot different too. It is weird to toggle back and forth. Sometimes if I've been working on a book for a long time and then I go to write a script, I've noticed that my scene directions are very like novelty.
Yeah.
I'll be like, she wandered in, looking around. You know, like
Which is
they'll be
funny
very
because do
much
you feel like I was told, like when I first wrote my very first script, like in college, which was like it was like that. People were like, wow, you're such a visual writer. You're gonna be a great screenwriter. But it's like people who didn't read screenplays, and then I gave it to someone, and they're like, why is there all this text? No one cares.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is actually the opposite. You're a bad writer if you write all this description.
Writing screenplays really helps you edit your own work because, like, for a TV show like My Little Pony, you got basically 30 pages.
It's a battle to get those, to
Yeah.
get it down there. I mean, you guys can all like feel this kind of insanity. If you're writing a sentence and it has 1 or 2 words down here, you'll go to the whole script and play like Tetris to
Yeah.
delete
Yeah.
that. He picked up that water. I could say he grabbed a bottle. He grabbed
Yeah, like
bottles
you
up.
find
Like you
like
find ways to.
yeah,
You
go
can
through and shorten it, and like by the end you might have saved yourself like a whole page.
They're written in Courier, which is a typewriter font, so every letter is exactly the same size. So you can switch the word house to home.
Yeah.
Buy yourself 1 letter, and then that word moves up there. And then
Yeah.
it's a whole page shorter.
Because each page is supposed to be about a minute of
You
screen
don't want
time,
stragglers. You
right?
don't want like 2 words of scene direction
I
on
don't think
the
so.
top of the page. Anyway, it's
Yes.
all
There's a lot of tricks, but it helps you really helps you think how to edit
Wonderful.
yourself.
yeah.
We covered one aspect of this with the apologise profusely on Twitter, but the question is, what are some tips or stories about working and remotely, working or collaborating with others remotely?
It's weird.
Talking about, like,
You guys know how the show works?
Nothing in a room.
Yeah,
together.
I mean, you're not working in a writer's room, breaking it down together necessarily, or you might have one writer's summit and then go off and... So how do you collaborate, how do you keep canon straight?
It is
A
hard.
lot of that falls on the
It's a
story
bummer.
to do that because the individual writers don't know what's going on around you in the other episodes, but for the most part.
Yeah.
I mean,
The show is so fragmented. The writers are in LA, but even we don't see each other.
without-
The animators and most of the voice actors are in Canada. Hasbro executives are in LA, Tara Strong's in LA, but none of us, we don't have an office that we go to. It's all very fragmented.
Yeah, so there's not enough. When we broke Party Pooped in season 5, our story breaking meeting was you dragged a whiteboard down into a boiler room where there were like pipes and leaking things everywhere.
My early episodes I just did on Skype with Megan because I was in New York. Yeah.
It's weird. It doesn't make any sense that the show works.
Yeah, it actually doesn't.
Like I'm always shocked that there's continuity and things like that. I mean, a lot of that is the amazing story editing. You know, we first questions were like, ooh, the notes. A lot of times the notes are who says actually this happened. And so it's keeping track of all that.
Then you mentioned the difficulty in sort of adapting musical numbers in books at the beginning. A question here specifically pertaining to the finale of season 3. How do you handle it when a script is sort of told largely by songs? How involved are you in the lyrics writing process? I know Amy Keaton-Rogers, when she writes her scripts, includes demos of some of the musical tracks, so how she hears it in her head. But how do you approach writing lyrics or episodes where musical numbers are going to make up the biggest part of the episode?
I was like politely told that, you know, Nick, we've got, you know, this is great, but you know, we have professional lyricists, so like, you don't have to worry about it. So I must be real bad at it. And every song's always been cut. I had an episode that started with like a Mary Tyler Moore thing, but like with Ma just being like, who can turn the world, like the music, like really, Ma just kind of like